people who want to come in are welcome. And what I'll do is probably put it about 3 hours before the final, so it has plenty of time. You get a lunch. You guys make sure you eat lots of fish before you take a test. You know that, don't you? You take brain food stuff. Have you heard that? Where did you guys go? Did you get that? Okay. Okay, so, or fish tacos. Fish tacos are really good too. I love fish tacos. All right, here we go. I'm just going to give you a limited number of true and false this time. Change this. Okay, I'm referring to the transistor and dwell. Dwell period in an ignition system when the points or transistor is what? Open or closed? Dwell period, saturation is taking place when the points or transistor is closed. Okay, thank you. Is ignition dwell negative duty cycle or positive duty cycle? Negative duty cycle. Switched on from the ground side of the coil.
What was that?
Ignition dwell. Is it negative duty cycle or positive duty cycle?
Negative. Wait.
It is negative duty cycle. Don't confuse me. I might change the answer. When you have fixed dwell, on your vehicle. What mode is it in? Base timing. What's another term I just mentioned? Module mode. Module mode. You'll see that used. I said that if you're going to do fixed dwell, if it has fixed dwell, what mode is it in? Base timing. Base timing or module mode. Module mode. When I just mentioned negative duty cycle, what about positive duty cycle? That means that the work is being done from which side of the solenoid or motor?
Positive side.
From the positive side of the motor, right? Positive duty cycle. Good thing is we don't see that very often until we get to transmissions. And we see some components in our transmissions that are positive duty cycle. And you better know this one. Capacitors are rated in what? Farads. Farads. It seems like you'd be from Saudi Arabia with that name, farad. What does LED stand for? What are the two bias conditions? Reverse and forward. Okay. A Zener diode allows reverse current flow at the point of breakdown. I like that name. Breakdown. Does he? I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
If you put two coils of wire together, what do you have? Two coils of wire and charge one of them. What do you have? What's the principle we call it? Do have good have a transformer.
Mutual induction.
Induction or mutual induction. Friendly induction. Mutual.
Friendly induction.
Some vehicle manufacturers use this thing called an inertia switch. What is an inertia switch?
Shuts off the fuel pump.
Shuts off the fuel pump. Opens the circuit to the fuel pump. Okay? And you think only Fords would have it, but other car manufacturers are also using it.
That's when it gets in an accident?
That's the idea. Anyway, either that or you've been off-roading. It's not. It could be a rollover switch if you hit it right. I'm going to give you a list of possible continuity. Continuity is what?
Induction. Complete circuit.
Flow of electrons.
So it's anything other than infinity. Isn't that correct? Would you say that?
Yeah.
So everybody understands the word infinity?
Yes.
Okay, so limitless and anything other than infinity. Continuity can be defined as anything other than infinity. So you're doing a voltage check at the coil for ignition to coil voltage drop. It needs to be within what value? It needs to be within one value. In other words, you're doing a voltage drop to your ignition coil positive, cranking. What is that value? Less than
2/10.
1 volt. Okay. This is not our starter voltage drop. Okay. But that would apply for alternator starting. Less than 1 volt. That was one of your worksheets. I'm going to list a number of things that are recommended for setting a timing light. Excuse me. I'm going to mention one here. There was an old habit by old technicians that is very inappropriate, and that's where they would take an ice pick and they would jam it down the silicone wire right on the top, and then they would connect their timing light lead to it. Bad habit, bad habit. And fortunately, young technicians learning this don't learn any of that stuff. But that was a quick way to hook up your old timing light. You jam an ice pick down through there, guess what happens then? You just poke the hole in there, and then the next guy that puts his hand over top of the wires, guess what's going to happen? Bad news. So you've seen this if you've been around for a long time. That is the only inappropriate distractor that I have on here. Okay?
No ice picks.
Say that louder. Yes, that is going to be on the test. I'm just saying which one of these is not appropriate. Jamming the ice pick down the wire. Okay, so if I said a possible cause of carbon fouled spark plugs, which means it's running rich, right? Carbon fouled. Let me see which one of these could they be. Retarded timing, could that cause it to run rich? The timing retarded. Overly rich fuel mixture, that's a giveaway. How about excessive idling? Just idling for long periods of time. So all of these would be correct. I'm going to include a few questions on sensors, not many. And I'm talking about an oxygen sensor. We haven't covered oxygen sensors other than what you did in your chapters. So what you learned about an oxygen sensor is that it produces a voltage if it's a zirconium type oxygen sensors. If it is an oxygen sensor, truly an oxygen sensor, it runs between this range, 0 and 1 volt DC. 0 and 1 volt DC. And we're going to be talking about things like a command and condition. Right now I'm only concerned about the condition when you see a voltage on an oxygen sensor. So the dividing line is 450 millivolts. That divides it between rich and low. You can go in and unplug the oxygen sensor on the older ones, not the newer ones because they've changed. But the older ones, a single wire oxygen sensor, you would unplug it. It has a bias voltage coming out of the computer. Here we are, bias voltage again. It has 450 millivolts bias voltage. That's why that is the middle. When it goes above 450, it is a